Hello and welcome, team. Here's the video for our reference and guidelines.
My name is Tyler, and in this class, we're going to introduce you to Spaceman's soft serve equipment, how it works, as well as detailed information on proper cleaning, operation, and maintenance of your soft serve machine. If you have not done so already, I'd highly recommend checking out our Spaceman Introduction video that introduces you to our company, the different types of equipment we produce, and how we support and service the equipment we sell. We'll post links to that video and future training classes in the video description down below. This introduction is one of the longer classes, but it's filled with a ton of important information. First, we're going to start by taking a deeper dive into the components of the soft serve machine, identify what different parts are, what they're called, and what they do inside the machine. Then, we'll talk about cleaning and maintenance requirements in general. In this class, we won't be going into the specifics and details of cleaning or troubleshooting, so if that's what you're looking for, we'll post links to those classes and guides in the video description down below. However, I highly recommend sticking around through this class to get some good tips and tricks that aren't covered in the step-by-step guides. Finally, in this class, we'll wrap up talking about soft serve product and the different variables you're going to come across while operating your equipment. We'll provide some tips for best practices and give you an understanding of how to avoid or resolve some common operational issues you may come across. With that, let's get started. First up, we're going to break down the machine and see what makes our soft serve machines function. Over the past decade, Spaceman soft serve machines have gone through 3 different major revisions that you may encounter. Currently, in the United States, we're selling version 2 style of components. In general, the operation of the machines are the same throughout all 3 versions, but the parts have been updated or modified to either produce a better quality or consistency of product, or to reduce the amount of cleaning parts and equipment complexity. As we go through the parts, you'll see the different versions and the differences between them, and we'll notate them as either version 1 or version 2. From the outside, the Spaceman soft serve machine is relatively simple. Up top, we have a storage hopper. This is where liquid product is stored at a food-safe, chilled, but not frozen temperature. Most Spaceman machines come equipped with a hopper agitator. This is a magnetically driven mixing blade that will help keep liquid product in the hopper mixed so that it doesn't separate and settle. Any time that the storage hopper is actively cooling, this blade will be turning. It is important to note that this blade is not strong enough to still be pre-mixed before pouring it into the machine. This hopper agitator is only designed to prevent pre-mixed product from separating. While the hopper is able to cool down product from room temperature, it is always advisable to pour in pre-chilled product whenever possible. Not only will this reduce the wear and tear on your equipment, but it will also help improve the output efficiency of your machine. Liquid product from the hopper then flows down into the freezer tube or injection tube, or via an air pump for models with the air pump configuration option. In both cases, the product is mixed with air before entering the freezing cylinder, and this additional air adds what is referred to as overrun. We'll talk more about overrun later, but for the purposes of identifying the parts, just know that each part controls this overrun in a different way. For gravity-fed machines using an air tube, liquid product flows through a port on the side of the air tube, and air is sucked through a different port on the top of the air tube. The air-to-product ratio is controlled via the size of the hole on the side of the air tube. Spaceman sells different size air tubes to accommodate different air-to-product ratios for different products. In an air pump machine, liquid product is sucked up by a gear pump through a suction tube. Air is sucked in by a capillary effect through the front faceplate on the air pump and mixed with the product. The pump then injects this product and air mixture into the freezing cylinder through the injection tube and pressurizes the cylinder. The air-to-product ratio in an air pump unit is controlled via the suction tube, which can be rotated to increase or decrease the amount of product being sucked into the pump. The amount of pressure in the cylinder is controlled by a spring and check valve system. Once the cylinder reaches the appropriate pressure, the spring will open and no more product will be injected into the cylinder, even if the pump is still running. You'll see this by product trickling out through the air inlet holes on the front faceplate of the air pump. Now let's take a look at the parts inside the freezing cylinder. Once product is inside the freezing cylinder, it is agitated by the beater, which is sometimes also referred to as an auger. This beater has scraper blades installed that scrape the frozen soft serve off of the cylinder walls as it freezes. On version 1 machines, scraper blades are thinner and use a metal clip for rigidity. On version 2, we used a much more durable plastic and no metal clip is required. All version 1 machines are able to be upgraded to version 2 single-piece scraper blades at any time. The beater is turned using a drive shaft at the rear of the cylinder. This drive shaft is often overlooked by operators during cleaning. However, removing this drive shaft and its gasket and properly lubricating them is extremely important to the proper machine operation. At the front of the beater is a beater guide. It's sometimes also referred to as a bearing or bearing guide. This plastic piece is a wearable part that helps keep the beater centered in the freezing cylinder. There is a difference between version 1 and version 2 beater guides. When you purchase a Spaceman wearable part tune-up kit, it will include both the version 1 and the version 2 guides. It's important to use the correct one for your machine. On older version 1 machines, the beater also had beater shoes installed to further help keep the beater centered in the freezing cylinder. While the beater shoes were required on version 1, these parts were removed from version 2 to reduce the number of cleaning parts as they are no longer required. Inside your wearable parts tune-up kit, the difference in version 1 and version 2 parts will be noted, and the version 1 parts will be in a separate plastic bag and labeled as such. All of these beater components that we just looked at can be upgraded from version 1 to version 2 in most cases. If you are interested in this upgrade opportunity, please reach out to the Spaceman Customer Success Team for more information. At the very front of the freezing cylinder, we have the dispensing door assembly. This assembly consists of the dispensing door itself, which has the beater rods installed. These beater rods float on the inside of the beater while it is agitating the product and help prevent large ice chunks from forming in the middle of the cylinder. The beater rods do not need to be removed during normal cleanings. However, if they ever do need to be replaced due to damage, it's important to note that they are reverse threaded into the dispensing door. There is a door gasket that seals the dispensing door to the front face of the freezing cylinder. For soft serve machines, this gasket is directional, meaning that it must be installed with the ridges facing the door to seal properly. The flat face of the door gasket should be facing the freezing cylinder so that it sits flush. Next in the dispensing door assembly, we have the draw valves, also referred to as dispensing valves. These valves are opened and closed to start and stop the dispensing of soft serve through the dispensing door. For soft serve, there are two types of draw valves. One is for the sides on two flavor machines or for single flavor machines, and it uses two standard O-rings to prevent product from leaking. The other type of valve is for two flavor machines for the twist in the middle. This valve uses an H-ring to prevent product from leaking from one flavor to the other, as well as from leaking out of the machine. Lubricating these draw valves is important to prevent product from dripping and ensure the valves can close correctly. Attached to the draw valves are the dispensing handles. These handles allow the operator to open and close the draw valves and are secured in place with a metal pin. In older version 1 machines, some models had an additional spring installed on the handle to help the handle spring back closed after dispensing product. In all version 2 machines, the spring mechanism is installed on the machine and is not removed during cleaning. Finally, on the dispensing door, we also have a prime plug for each cylinder. This prime plug is one of the most overlooked but most important parts of the soft serve machine and the dispensing door. It is used to fill the cylinder with fresh liquid product to the correct level after cleaning. If the cylinder is not primed after cleaning, there will not be sufficient liquid product in the freezing cylinder and the machine will experience a freeze-up. Making sure that the prime plug is cleaned and utilized correctly during the cleaning and operation of your machine is very important to prevent issues. Standing back from the machine, there are just three parts that we haven't touched on yet. The hopper lid, up top, simply covers the storage hopper to keep it clean. There are two pins on top of the machine to hold your lid while filling with fresh product. Each machine also includes a main drip tray to catch drips and condensation from the front of the machine. And last but not least, in many machines there is also an internal drip tray. This internal tray should be removed and cleaned regularly. If your machine is being cleaned and lubricated properly, this tray should only be filled with condensation. If you ever see excess lubrication or product in this tray, it's an indication that something isn't right with your cleaning, such as too much or too little lubrication, or that it's time to replace your drive shaft gasket if it's worn out. So let's take one final look at all the parts we just talked about. You can see from version 1 to version 2, a lot of the parts were reduced, which makes cleaning much simpler and less complicated on the newer version 2 machines. The version 2 components are also redesigned slightly to improve the product consistency and quality coming out of the machine, and a definite recommended upgrade for anyone still running version 1 parts. Now that we're familiar with all of the parts, we're going to take a look at soft serve controls and how Spaceman machines operate. Above the freezing cylinder, you will see a digital control interface. With the exception of some older version 1 models, all new Spaceman soft serve machines have digital controls to operate the machine. There will be one interface per flavor, and this controller is how you will switch the machine between modes and change settings like viscosity. Spaceman soft serve machines all have 4 different operating modes. First up is wash mode. Wash mode is accessed by the top middle button that has a faucet icon. This mode is used to turn on only the beater or the motor in the freezing cylinder. No cooling or any other refrigeration systems will be turned on or applied in this mode. It is used to help clean your machine and agitate water or sanitizer without the risk of freezing up. Next up, we have freeze mode. The freeze mode is accessed by the top left button with a snowflake icon. This is the primary mode that you'll use when operating the machine. In freeze mode, product is frozen and held at a